Marlon Schmidt here, MLA for Edmonton Gold Bar, with another Alberta Next panel video reaction. This time it's on tax collection and the federal government. Now remember, the whole purpose of this exercise is to distract you and channel your anger away from Danielle Smith and the UCP towards something that they feel is much more harmless. You know, we know that people are pissed off about the high cost of living and the fact that healthcare in this province sucks, but Danielle Smith wants you to be angry at somebody else and not her, and this is her attempt to distract you. So we'll have a look at what they have to say about tax collection in the federal government.
One idea being discussed by the panel is Alberta collecting all provincial personal income taxes, rather than having Ottawa do it for us. Today, when Albertans file and pay their personal income taxes, they do so through the Canada Revenue Agency, which then remits the provincial portion of those personal income taxes back to the provincial government. However, Alberta businesses file and pay their provincial corporate taxes directly to the provincial government. Quebec does it differently. They collect both personal and corporate income taxes directly from Quebecers, bypassing the CRA altogether. What if Alberta did the same? There would definitely be startup and ongoing administration costs, but it would also mean bringing good-paying jobs to Alberta instead of funding federal employees.
Okay, first red flag here is the ongoing administration costs as well as the startup costs. It's interesting that they don't tell us how much that is. I don't know off the top of my head how much that is, but it's money that we would never get back. The other thing that I want to make sure that people realize is that, yes, we do collect our own corporate taxes here in Alberta, and I remember very distinctly running against one candidate in an election here in Gold Bar. He was a corporate tax collector for the province of Alberta, and his thrust of his campaign was about how Alberta goes easy on corporate tax cheats. So there's billions of dollars in unpaid corporate taxes that the Alberta government just can't be bothered to collect. Hey, good for corporations, bad for the people of Alberta. I'm not sure why we would want to create this second system for provincial income taxes as well. You know, we've got a number of high income earners who are probably already pretty good at hiding the amount of income tax that they owe. With the Alberta government in charge of collecting those income taxes, you can bet that they would get away with not paying even more and leaving you and me on the hook for the shortfall in revenue.
There would definitely be startup and ongoing administration costs, but it would also mean bringing good-paying jobs to Alberta instead of funding federal employees in other parts of the country. Under Canada's Constitution, levying and collecting taxes is an area of provincial jurisdiction, and Alberta could transition over the coming years to collecting our personal income taxes, as we do with corporate taxes now. So what are some of the benefits to Alberta collecting its own personal income taxes? 1. Better provincial tax policy. Currently, Alberta sets its own tax rates and credits, but definitions and treatments of income are still largely tied to federal rules, which limits our flexibility to implement more effective and competitive tax policy.
Okay. Some red flags from here. Again, I don't know the details. And here's the problem, is that tax policy and tax collection is incredibly complicated business. That's why we have people who earn a living doing tax policy and tax collection, both for the government and assessing your income statements and my income statements to determine how much tax we owe to the federal and provincial governments. I don't think that there is as much federal control over Alberta's tax policy as Danielle Smith and the UCP want you to believe. And moreover, if we set up an Alberta separate provincial tax collection agency, we still have to pay federal taxes. So we're still subject to the federal tax policy. It's not clear to me exactly how this will liberate Albertans' provincial tax policies, and I don't think that it's true here. But it's interesting that they don't use any specific examples, probably because this is a bunch of BS.
We saw this recently when the federal government changed the rules on capital gains for doctors and other professionals. And Alberta was effectively forced to follow those same rules as it related to provincial personal income taxes. If Alberta were to collect its own taxes, we could tailor our entire tax framework to better reflect.
Okay, I got to eat crow here. They did follow up with an example. I guess that's one of the downsides of doing these React videos live, is that you don't know you don't know what's coming next. But yes, we want to harmonize the tax rates for capital gains taxes. And here's why. Business wants certainty. And it just does not do anybody any good if we have a separate capital gains rate at the provincial level as well as at the federal level. It makes tax collection more expensive. It makes it more complicated. And also, personally, why wouldn't we raise capital gains taxes? Capital gains are what billionaires pay on the money that money earns, okay? This isn't work that people have done. This is the money that money earns. And it makes sense to me to raise capital gains taxes. That way, you and I don't have to pay as much in income tax on the money that we earn from the work that we do. This is a really terrible example because if anything, capital gains should be taxed at a fair rate. We shouldn't be letting capital gains go untaxed the way that they're proposing here.
We could tailor our entire tax framework to better reflect our economic realities and provincial policy goals, while declining federal changes to certain portions of tax policies that detrimentally affect provincial income tax policy. This could open the door to streamlining calculations and simplifying provincial income taxes for Alberta residents. 2. Jobs and economic opportunity at home. Collecting our own taxes would also mean establishing the infrastructure and staffing to support it, creating thousands of good, high-paying jobs right here in Alberta, instead of funding positions in Ottawa or other provinces.
I'm a little bit stunned because this is the first time that the UCP has, that I know of, that they've advocated for creating more government jobs. In the run-up to the 2019 election, one of the myths that the UCP and Jason Kenney propagated at the time was that the Rachel Notley government hired thousands of public servants. And we did hire doctors, we did hire nurses, we did hire teachers. What we didn't do was hire a bunch of tax collectors. And I don't think the people of Alberta are clamoring for more tax collectors on the payroll. And that's exactly what Danielle Smith is proposing here, is to hire additional tax collectors that you and I will pay for with our income taxes. And we're not going to save the money. We will still be subject to a federal income tax. It's not like the federal government is going to reduce the number of people who are working in their department. So we'll essentially be paying for 2 income tax collection systems instead of 1. When the cost of living is so high, I don't know why Danielle Smith and the UCP want us to pay more taxes to support their separatist agenda, but here we are.
3. More Alberta, less Ottawa. By moving away from the federal administration of the CRA and collecting provincial income taxes by ourselves, Alberta can exercise more direct control over a core aspect of self-government, thereby increasing our provincial independence from Ottawa. But there are also potential drawbacks to consider.
Okay, this is, again, really misleading. We will still be subject to federal income tax rules. So I don't know exactly what they're getting at here with Alberta being able to set its own tax policy. We already have very wide latitude in setting our own tax policies. Again, this isn't going to be some sort of liberation for Alberta tax collectors.
So potential drawbacks to consider. 1. A long-term commitment. Establishing Alberta's own personal income tax collection agency would not happen overnight. Estimates suggest it could take up to 5 years to fully build out the necessary systems and staffing. This would be a major logistical undertaking that would require a sustained commitment from Albertans and their government.
Already red flags here. Lots of things to say, but in terms of my trust in the ability of Danielle Smith and the UCP to maintain a long-term commitment to an administratively complex task is nil. We've already seen the disaster that's happening in the healthcare system with the restructuring of Alberta Health Services to create a bunch of new agencies. That hasn't gone according to plan. I really don't think that they would be capable of setting up our own Alberta tax agency.
2. Significant financial investment. The estimated cost to implement Alberta's own tax agency ranges from $750 million to $1.5 billion over several years. Once operational, the system...
Okay, this is extremely frustrating to see that they're more than happy to throw away up to $1.5 billion on an unnecessary tax collection system when they're not even willing to spend a fraction of that allowing AISH recipients to keep the Canadian disability benefit that's equal to $200 a month. You know, they nickel and dime the poorest and the most vulnerable among us here in Alberta because they say they can't afford it, but here they are willing to throw away $1.5 billion on an unneeded tax revenue agency. Give me a break. Like, let's spend the money on the things that will actually make our lives better, and not this duplication and wasteful efforts like an Alberta revenue agency.
Could cost up to $750 million annually and require hiring as many as 5,000 new public employees.
Okay, $750 or $750 million annually. That's already larger than almost all of the existing departments of government. I can only think of four: healthcare, education, advanced education, community and social services that cost more than that. I may be wrong. There might be a half a dozen or so in total, but there are 20-some departments of government, most of which have an annual budget of less than $750 million. So this is a significant increase to the government's annual budget that they don't have any anticipation, or they're not anticipating any way of paying for it. So, you know, what you're looking at here is either a significant tax increase or significant cuts to the services that you and I rely on to make our lives better to pay for this unneeded revenue agency.
3. Potential for added complexity. There are also practical implications for taxpayers and businesses. Albertans would need to file separate federal and provincial tax forms, although online filing would likely ease that burden. There may also be increased complexities for businesses and Albertans working in different provinces throughout the year. Now,
hands up if you want to file your income taxes twice. No, I didn't think so. This is, I mean, I'm sure that this is a deal breaker for most Albertans. Nobody is asking to fill out their income tax forms twice. For a bunch of people, it's hard enough to even fill it out once. This is ridiculous.
Tell us what you think about the idea of Alberta collecting its own personal income taxes. For more information, visit alberta.ca/next.
Yeah, well, I think you guys already have a pretty clear idea of where I stand on this. This is one of the stupidest ideas that this Alberta Next panel has put together. And they basically admit it themselves. Extra costs with no added benefit. Other than owning Ottawa, there's no practical reason to create a separate Alberta revenue agency. And it's going to cost you and I, it's going to cost us $1.5 billion extra that the government continually says that we don't have. that we don't have when we ask for things that make our lives better, like more nurses in hospitals and better pay for teachers. So, yeah, this is an absolutely ridiculous idea that nobody is asking for. Yeah, let's scrap this, move on, and remember that Danielle Smith and the UCP have real problems to solve, and they are not getting to work and solving them. Anyway, look forward to your responses to this video and the next time we look at one of these Alberta Next panel videos.